Okay. First things first, can I just say how much I love and appreciate the admiration and respect for Dazzler expressed in the comments on our part 1 to this video? I love Dazzler, and although some might see her as useless, it's nice to see people acknowledge just how OP her powers can be. I actually just got her Masterworks, the first volume of her Masterworks, and I'm so excited to collect them all. Not all heroes may initially seem super strong or useful, but given the right situation, even the most unlikely can get their time to shine. Or in Dazzler's case, dazzle, should we say. Welcome back, Nerd Squad. This is Top 10 Useless Superheroes with Useful Superpowers Part 2. I'm Amanda, and I want to know, what unusual powers do you think are the most useful? Number 10. Sideways. Sideways hails from DC Comics. He was introduced to be part of a new wave of original characters that DC wanted to make mainstays. Sadly, many of these characters did not end up enduring and kind of were forgotten, but that doesn't mean that they weren't cool, and that doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to remember them, because they were cool. Maybe we should have done more with them. Sideways powers allowed him to create rifts in midair, ripping holes into space-time that he could use to teleport through. In other words, he had the ability to teleport not just through space, but also through dimensions. Pretty neat. However, he didn't have the best handle on his powers, and therefore had difficulty controlling these rifts in regards to where they would lead to. Not great considering how powerful this ability is, and how easy you can mess up the timeline with it if you weren't careful. However, it's still a pretty insane ability, and that actually wasn't all Derek James as Sideways could do. He can also manipulate gravity, creating mini black holes, and possesses superhuman strength, durability, and reflexes, as well as a healing factor. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we are doing here, and if you want more lists like this, be sure to let us know by clicking that like button. Number 9. Explodey Boy. Explodey Boy was one of the young mutants who fled to Genosha looking for somewhere they could thrive and be safe. However, it didn't work out too well for those mutants when Genosha was targeted by Cassandra Nova's wild sentinels, decimating the island and killing many of its inhabitants in one of the worst mutant tragedies ever. Explodey Boy was one of the mutants who perished in this attack. He has since been returned to life on Krakoa, where he was resurrected, but a zombie version of him also temporarily returned to life during the Empire event, as seen in the X-Men miniseries tie-in. His powers allow him to make things explode, known as phragokinesis, but they were not enough to protect him when the attack on Genosha happened. However, his powers did come in handy when the original, now zombified version of the character chose to sacrifice himself, blowing up to protect the life his resurrected self now had on Krakoa, which sounded all in all pretty good to him. Number 8. Trinary. Trinary is one of those mutants who is actually super useful in the right environment and on the right mission, but not every mission is going to be her strong suit. She isn't as well-rounded as others because her powers are really specific. Trinary is a technopath, which is actually, I think, one of my favorite mutations out there. As a technopath, she can communicate with technology and make technology do her bidding. Although more recently in the X-Corp miniseries, which I really wish had become an ongoing series, it was so good, her powers were actually less depicted as blatant control and more depicted as Trinary kind of just asking computers and technology to work with her, and then them acquiescing because they either like her or respect her, or a combination of both. This is interesting to me, especially when you consider mutantkind's current relationship with technology and AI, like Sentinels and Nimrod. Trinary as a technopath is not known for being exceptionally good at fighting or anything like that, and could be considered kinda squishy, unless of course she is going up against anything tech-based or happens to have tech around her which she can use to defend herself, and then she's pretty powerful. So, like I said, not powerful in some ways, powerful in other ways. Number 7. Stone Boy. Stone Boy is from DC Comics, first appearing in Adventure Comics in issue number 306 back in 1963. His power set is extremely useful as it renders him extremely strong and durable, but unfortunately, he's also kinda useless because while extremely strong and durable in his stone form, he's also immobile, or at least for a very long time was only ever really immobile. This is because while in his stone form, he was technically asleep. That's right. His alien race possesses this stone form because on their planet the nights are actually half a year long. Their stone form is therefore used as a kind of suspended animation or stasis throughout these very, very long nights. However, Stone Boy would later find a way to be awake while in his stone form, which allowed him to become mobile in the future. Still though, what a weird but interesting power and origin. Number 6. Anarchist. Anarchist is an interesting one. He has powers that allow him to produce acid sweat. He was a part of the team originally known as X-Force before being renamed to X-Statix. This is the mutant reality TV team who films all their exploits and interactions for the purpose of basically entertainment. Now, the reason I decided to go with Anarchist as opposed to Zeitgeist is because I feel like Anarchist's powers are more useful, as it's easier to make yourself sweat as opposed to, make yourself throw up. However, in either case, you'd probably want to be well hydrated when using either of these abilities. Anarchist can build up sweat and use it to generate energy, which he disperses in acidic blasts. Anarchist recently was resurrected on Krakoa after dying a while ago in a final fight with his fellow X-Statix teammates. Number 5. Starboy. Starboy was originally known to be quite powerful back in the pre-Zero Hour days, at least. An alien, he seemed to gain powers from being caught in a comet's tail. They allowed him to manipulate the density of objects and people by drawing on power from stars and using their pull to alter the gravitational pull of others. For a time, he also had additional powers that made him as powerful as Superman, possessing superhuman durability, strength, flight, and even his own electric vision. However, over time these faded and Tom Kalor would grow up to become the future Starman. As Starman, it was revealed that Tom suffered from schizophrenia and that when he wasn't acting as a hero, he was actually living in a sanitarium and had to take medication for his condition to keep it under control. His powers are useful, but he used to be much more powerful when his power set was more akin to Superman. Number 4. Karma. Karma probably is one of the most useful powers of all of these people on the list, and that's why she's so high up, but otherwise, she's pretty squishy. Such is the case with a lot of the more psychic or psionically inclined superheroes. In fact, I was watching some Star Trek lately, TNG, aka The Next Generation, and I was just thinking a similar thing about Donna Troy, who also struggles from being, sometimes super useful and sometimes not so useful depending on the scenario. I guess that's kind of a different issue, but she's also kind of squishy. You know how Donna Troy can be. She's like, I sense a presence and I know exactly what these people are thinking or feeling. Or she'll be like, I don't sense anything. It's great. Karma is a telepath, but not a super powerful one. She can read minds, thoughts, and feelings, but only to a certain level or degree. However, she also has the power to control minds, and in this telepathic ability, she generally tends to excel. So while she is squishy and not particularly gifted at reading minds, she can just take control over her enemies. There have been shown to be some restrictions on this power though. A younger Karma would struggle sometimes to maintain control for an extended period, although at other times Karma has also been shown to be able to take control of multiple minds at once. Although I do believe she can only pilot one person at a time, at least that used to be a thing, even while in possession of multiple minds, which is kind of also a drawback. Number 3. Fury. Although really we aren't quite talking about Fury, at least not one of the other versions of this character, but instead focusing on the version of her that is mainly known as Lita Hall. This version of the character seems to have moved past her origin as Wonder Woman's daughter following the events of Crisis on Infinite Earths, where everything kind of got weirdly reset and restructured. Instead, we know her as the daughter of Helena Cosmatos, also Fury, who was raised instead by Admiral Derek Trevor and Miss America, aka Joan Dale Trevor. She ends up becoming the partner of Hector Hall, and the two are going to have a child together when Hector tragically dies. While dead in the real world, Hector's consciousness becomes suspended in a pocket of the dream world, with Brute and Glob turning him basically into their new Sandman after Dream's imprisonment, which all happens in the Sandman series. Lita is visited by Hector in her dreams and eventually chooses to stay with him there, but their child ends up being claimed by the Dream Lord upon his return. He forces Hector's spirit to move on and then explains that one day he will actually come for Lita's child, who actually belongs to the Dreaming. Despite her Amazonian-like abilities, Lita can be seen as kinda useless, as she doesn't really act as a hero in Neil Gaiman's Sandman series, and instead attempts to pursue a normal life with her son. That is until her son goes missing, and then she kind of just becomes unhinged. And she also, even before that, kinda is compromised somewhat in the sense that she gets insane anxiety when it comes to being separated from her son at any moment because, of course, of Dream's threat to one day come and claim him. Number 2. Destiny. Is Destiny a hero? Well, I mean, lately, I'd say, in a weird way, she kinda is. She is one of the few people who was able to stop Moira McTaggart from killing off a mutant kind, destroying them from the inside out. She's also been one of the few who was able to stand against Mr. Sinister in his many attempts to take control. However, ultimately, Destiny isn't winning that fight because we know the Sins of Sinister event is fast approaching. And Destiny is on the Quiet Council currently, which exists to try and govern Krakoa, making life for mutants on the island nation a paradise, and defending that life that the nation is built for its residents. So I'm gonna say that right now, she's close enough to a superhero. I think we can count her on this list. I think we can just acknowledge that Destiny's been doing some pretty good things lately. When it comes to her power set, Destiny is kind of useless if we're talking about, like a fist fight to the death. But she's extremely useful when it comes to her powers, if kept out of the action. More of a guiding light for those fighting that is, better kept on the sidelines. Destiny is a precog and can use her mutant abilities to see the future. The more probable a future is, the clearer her vision of it will become, allowing her to sense which futures and outcomes are most likely. Number 1. Booster Gold. Booster Gold is kind of the epitome of what this list is about to me. His powers aren't really powers that he was born with or incurred from, a wacky lab accident gone wrong, but instead were gained through him stealing some tech in the future, which is where he's from, and using it to travel to the past. Their booster used his tech as well as his knowledge from the future to try and become a hero, and well, he succeeded. Hooray! However, Booster isn't always the best at heroics. Case in point, the time he tried to give a gift to Batman and Catwoman in honor of their wedding. His gift was to travel back in time and prevent Bruce's parents from dying, but in doing so, this actually prevented Bruce and Selina from ever getting together, and it also caused a lot of other problems. So yeah, he's got some really amazing powers, but sometimes he isn't so great at using them super wisely. But that's part of the charm of Booster Gold as well. Well, that's all the time we have for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, you stay nerdy, YouTube. Bye!